The substitute teacher seemed ordinary, polite, quiet, just filling in after spring break. But the police dog wouldn't stop staring. Every time the man passed, the dog's ears pinned back, his posture stiffened, and then he started barking. Not just once, not out of fear, relentless, focused, like he knew something no one else did. Teachers brushed it off until the dog blocked the man from entering a hallway. And by that afternoon, the entire school was in lockdown. So what exactly did the dog sense? Before we dive in, drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. And if you enjoy real feeling animal stories like this, check out our other channel, where the heroes are cats instead of dogs. Make sure you're subscribed over there too. The link's in the pinned comment. Let's get into it. It was the Monday after spring break at Whitmore Elementary, and everything was trying to feel normal again. Kids dragged backpacks half their size across the parking lot. Teachers stood by classroom doors sipping coffee like it was armor. And Officer Henry Miles, 11-year veteran of the force and 6 months into his new school resource assignment, leaned against the north wall with his partner, Rex. Rex was a 6-year-old German Shepherd, not the biggest or the loudest in the department's K9 unit, but by far the most precise. Trained in scent, search, and silent behavioral alerts, he was built like a shadow with eyes that missed nothing. The kids adored him. He let first graders throw tennis balls at his feet all day without flinching. Even the cafeteria staff kept turkey slices just for him. But the real gift Rex had, the one only Henry truly understood, was his ability to read tension the way a veteran cop reads a room. That morning, the school buzzed with the usual post-break jitters. Kids clung to parents. Someone cried over a missing lunchbox. A custodian wheeled a mop bucket down the hall, already muttering about the smell near the gym. Henry did his usual sweep. Main entrance, side wings, the halls between the first and second grade pods. Rex padded beside him, relaxed but alert, tail swaying lightly. At 8:12 a.m., Henry stepped into the second grade wing and saw a new face standing at room 204's doorway. Tall man, slim, early 40s maybe, corduroy slacks and a striped button-down tucked too neatly into his belt. He wore wire-rimmed glasses and smiled as if he'd practiced it. "Morning," the man said, extending a hand. "You must be Officer Miles." Henry shook it. "That's me." "Daniel Blake. I'm filling in for Mrs. Canfield. I hear I've got her class for the next few weeks." "Welcome aboard," Henry replied, glancing into the room. Kids were already filing in, hanging up jackets. Everything looked fine. Blake added, "Appreciate what you do. I used to teach in a district that didn't have officers on site. Makes a difference." Henry nodded politely, already making a mental note of the man's clean speech pattern. No accent, no hesitation, just practiced. Still, nothing jumped out. Until Rex stiffened. He wasn't growling, not exactly, but his body went rigid, ears upright, eyes locked on Blake, no tail movement. His hind leg twitched once, like he wanted to move forward but wasn't sure if he should. Henry glanced down. "Rex," he said calmly, resting a hand on the harness. "It's okay." Rex didn't bark, but he didn't relax either. Blake noticed, raising his eyebrows. "Huh, don't worry. I don't smell like bacon or anything." Henry offered a tight smile. "He's just reading the room. Probably still in vacation mode." "Well, let me know if I pass the test," Blake joked, stepping back inside. As he disappeared behind the door, Rex slowly settled down, but kept looking back. Henry jotted a mental note. It wasn't enough to say anything. New people often got odd reactions from canines, especially ones trained for narcotics or behavioral shifts. Could have been cologne or even a subtle body signal that set Rex off. But still, Rex didn't react like that often. And when he did, it usually meant something. By Wednesday, the rhythm of post-break school life had mostly returned. Students were back to their routines, lining up for lunch, dragging coats behind them, forming cliques at recess like nothing had changed. The morning was uneventful. Rex made his usual rounds with Henry, pausing to greet the second graders who liked to pet his ears and the fifth graders who liked to pretend they weren't impressed. Just after 11 a.m., Henry turned the corner into the east hallway near the cafeteria. Classrooms were starting to line up for lunch rotation. Room 204, Blake's class, was already spilling into the hall. Henry slowed, letting Rex sniff at a doorframe out of habit. The air smelled like carpet cleaner and leftover math lessons. Blake stepped out of the room to guide the line, a clipboard tucked under his arm, smiling at a group of chatty girls near the back. Then it happened. Rex barked. Not a random woof or a sharp response to a sudden noise. This was pointed, sudden, loud, one bark, then another, the kind that turned heads. Every child froze. Blake stiffened mid-step. His eyes darted to Rex, then to Henry. "Whoa," he said, raising both hands in mock surrender. "That aimed at me?" Henry stepped forward, immediately reaching down to steady Rex's harness. Like, "Easy, Rex, easy." Rex stood tense, front paw slightly forward, chest puffed. His tail was low but rigid. He wasn't growling, but his hackles had risen just enough to notice. He stared directly at Blake, not blinking, not flinching. Henry gave the leash a gentle tug. "Down." Rex obeyed slowly, but his eyes didn't move. "Sorry about that," Henry said, managing a calm smile. "He's not usually vocal indoors. Might have picked up something weird." Blake gave a half laugh. "Maybe I stepped in something, or maybe he doesn't like substitute teachers." A few kids chuckled. The line started moving again. But Henry didn't laugh. He kept one hand resting lightly on Rex's shoulder as they stepped aside to let the class pass. Blake gave a polite nod, then followed his students down the hall toward the cafeteria. Rex's head turned to track him the entire time. Once the hallway cleared, Henry crouched beside his partner. "What was that?" he asked quietly. Rex didn't answer, of course, but his posture was still alert, not relaxed. His ears remained high. His breathing hadn't slowed. Henry tapped the radio clipped to his shoulder. "Control, this is Unit 12. No action needed, just logging an alert. K9 displayed vocal response in hallway 2 near room 204. Subject of attention was Mr. Daniel Blake. Substitute, no physical threat. Behavior logged for review." "Copy that, Unit 12. Henry waited a moment, hand still on Rex's fur. He'd been working with K9 units for almost a decade. Dogs barked, yes, but not Rex. Not like this, especially not inside a calm hallway, mid-lunch rotation, with no weapons, no threat, and no noise cues. Rex was trained for restraint. His alerts were typically silent. A lean, a posture shift, a quick glance. A bark was serious. Still, it wasn't enough to accuse anyone of anything. No policy had been broken. Blake hadn't done anything suspicious on paper. The children were fine. The camera footage would show nothing but a dog barking and a startled teacher. But Henry knew what he felt. He glanced at Rex again. The dog was sitting now, tail curled neatly around one side. But his eyes were still locked on the corner where Blake had gone. Henry exhaled slowly. One bark wasn't a report, but it was enough to watch more closely. By Friday morning, the pattern was undeniable. Rex had never shown signs of distraction or aggression. Not in 5 years of service, and certainly not in a school setting. But something about Mr. Blake triggered a switch. Every time the substitute teacher appeared within 20 feet, Rex's posture changed. His ears would angle forward. His body would stiffen. His breathing would go shallow. Twice more that week, Rex barked. Always when Blake passed by, and always when he wasn't doing anything wrong. The other teachers noticed. The students noticed. The principal noticed. At the weekly staff debrief, Principal Joy McLaren leaned on the corner of Henry's desk, arms folded. She'd been a teacher herself for 20 years and rarely looked rattled. "So," she said, "is Rex okay?" Henry glanced down at the dog who lay at his feet, gnawing calmly on a treat-stuffed chew toy. "He's fine," Henry said. "Vitals are good. No behavioral flags in other situations. Only around Blake." Joy raised a brow. "You think it's a scent thing? Cologne? Dog allergy?" "I've already checked his triggers. No recent changes in detergents or environmental cues. He hasn't reacted this way to anyone else. Only Blake." Joy hesitated, then spoke plainly. "You're not saying the new sub's a threat?" Henry shrugged. I'm saying Rex thinks something's off. Background check was clean. I know. Classroom reports are all positive. I know that too. Joy blew out a breath. What do you want me to do? Pull him for making friends with kids and wearing too much aftershave? No, Henry said. I'd like to shadow the classroom during dismissal for a few days. Just observe. Make it look like a K-9 training block. See if Rex continues. She tilted her head, thinking, You're serious. Dead serious? She studied him, then gave a tight nod. 2 days. You get 2 days. Don't spook anyone. Wouldn't dream of it. That afternoon, Henry took position just inside the second grade wing as the final bell rang. Rex sat beside him, leash slack, eyes forward. Students trickled out one by one. Some waved. A few stopped to say hi to Rex. Most ran past, eager for the weekend. Then Blake's class exited, and Rex stood up, not in a slow, lazy stretch, not to greet a student. He just stood, rigid, watchful, his eyes locked on Blake, who was helping a girl adjust her backpack straps by the door. Henry narrowed his gaze. Blake knelt down to speak to the girl. Lila, he remembered. Quiet, tiny. Often hugged her books to her chest. She didn't respond much in the hallways. Blake placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. And Rex growled. Not loud, not disruptive, just enough for Henry to hear. Rex's entire body tensed, not in fear, not in confusion, in warning. Henry didn't speak, just watched. Blake stood up, looked over at him with that same easy smile. They love this guy, huh? Kids seem to, Henry said, managing a neutral tone. Lila looked briefly at Henry, then back at her shoes. She didn't speak, didn't smile, just hurried away when the dismissal supervisor called her name. By the time the weekend arrived, the pattern had grown clearer. Rex didn't react to other staff, not even staff he hadn't met before. But every time Blake walked past, or worse, knelt near a child, Rex's body language turned to full alert. Henry stayed late that Friday, clicking through surveillance footage. Just hallway cams, nothing invasive. But the angles didn't lie. 3 times in 1 week, Blake had placed his hand gently on the same student's back, Lila, always when no other adults were within earshot. Each time she flinched, slightly, but enough. Henry wrote a report, not accusing, just logging observations. He added that the dog's repeated alerts, though unusual, were consistent. He signed it, time-stamped it, and forwarded it to the school counselor's encrypted inbox. He didn't sleep well that night, not because of what he knew, but because of what Rex wouldn't let him ignore. It was Monday morning when Henry noticed the shift. The air felt too still for spring. No chatter in the halls. No bounce in the kids' footsteps. Rex seemed tense. From the moment he exited the cruiser, nose low, ears flicking at each passing voice like he was filtering the sounds for something more important. During mid-morning recess, Henry took his usual walk along the Eastfield perimeter, while Rex trotted beside him, sniffing patches of grass, tail relaxed. The children were scattered in little clusters, some on swings, some chasing each other, some crouched over the chalk drawings along the blacktop. Then Rex stopped walking. Henry turned and saw him beelining toward the far end of the fence line, near the big tree where the shade made a pocket of quiet. There, sitting on her knees in the dirt, was Lila. She wasn't drawing, wasn't talking, just sitting, shoulders slightly curled, watching the mulch shift through her fingers. Rex slowed as he approached, then sat directly in front of her. Lila didn't look up, but her hand reached forward automatically, resting on his head like she'd done it 1,000 times. Henry stood several feet away, watching. Rex looked over his shoulder at him, once, sharply, then turned his head back toward Lila. His nose nudged her wrist. Then he looked back again. It wasn't a trick. It wasn't training. It was communication. Henry stepped forward, crouching beside them. "Hey, Lila," he said softly. "How's your morning?" She shrugged. Rex stayed perfectly still beneath her hand. His body was calm, but his eyes kept glancing at her face like he was waiting for something. "You doing okay in class?" Henry asked. I know having a new teacher can be a little weird. Another shrug. Henry kept his voice light. Mr. Blake being nice to you? Lila paused, then nodded, but something in it was wrong. Too quick, too mechanical. She still hadn't looked at Henry. Rex shifted his weight slightly and gave a soft, barely audible whine. Henry caught it. That sound only came out when something was seriously bothering him. Has he ever asked you to keep secrets? Henry asked carefully. Like games you're not supposed to talk about? Lila's head dipped lower. He calls it our secret game, she whispered. Says it's just for special students. Henry's hand clenched slightly on his radio. He didn't press the button, not yet. What kind of game? He asked gently. She shrugged again, but this one felt real, tight, nervous. I don't like it, she whispered. But he says I'm being silly, that other kids don't get this kind of attention. Henry nodded once. Did you tell anyone else? No, she said, then. He said my mom wouldn't believe me. Rex let out another quiet, low whine. His body was still, but his stare was laser-focused. Henry's heart was thudding now. He kept his tone even. Lila, he said, you're not in trouble, and you did the right thing by telling me. I just want to make sure you feel safe, okay? She nodded slightly. He walked her to the counselor's office. No fuss, no panic. Just said Rex needed water, and Lila could help. Inside, Counselor Bree Hanley met them at the door, warm as always. Henry quietly relayed what Lila had said. Bree's face changed. She didn't need convincing. I'll take it from here, she said gently. Henry stood outside the glass-paneled door as Bree sat beside Lila and started drawing with her. Just shapes and animals at first, then people. And slowly, a picture began to emerge. Lila had drawn herself. A girl with short hair, big shoes, and a pink backpack. She drew a tall man next to her. Black shoes, red tie, long arms. They were standing inside a room with no windows, no other kids, a shut door. One word was scribbled across the top of the paper in careful, nervous handwriting. Special. That afternoon, Bree filed a mandatory report to the school board and county investigators. They flagged the case as concerning but inconclusive. Blake hadn't been seen alone with her. Nothing physical had been reported. No camera footage existed. But Henry knew what Rex had known from day one. Something was wrong. Something was about to boil over. He went home that night and sat at the foot of his bed, running his hand along Rex's spine. You're the only one who saw it, he murmured. Rex licked his wrist, then rested his chin on Henry's knee, and waited for tomorrow. Tuesday morning broke unusually quiet. A thin fog clung to the soccer field. The parking lot glistened from overnight dew. Most teachers weren't due for another 15 minutes, but Henry was already parked near the cafeteria loading dock, sipping lukewarm coffee from a dented thermos. Rex sat in the back seat of the cruiser, watching the school doors with a focus that never seemed to switch off. The school camera monitors were visible through Henry's tablet, part of his routine morning check. One of them blinked unexpectedly. Hallway 2C, movement detected. Henry tapped the feed. The timestamp read 6:32 a.m. Too early. He squinted at the grainy image. A single figure walked past the science lab doors. Head slightly down, bag slung awkwardly over one shoulder. Tall, jacketed, no staff badge visible. The camera caught only a side profile as the figure moved toward the kindergarten wing. Henry leaned forward. That wasn't a janitor. He radioed in softly. Unit 3, got early motion inside the east wing. Looks like an adult male. No ID. Investigating. Then he slid out of the cruiser, clicked Rex's leash onto his collar, and gave a quick hand signal. Rex stepped out, body alert, not tense yet, but watching. They entered through the northeast access door. The lights inside were dim, on early eco mode. The corridors echoed faintly underfoot. Henry kept his steps even, measured. Rex walked beside him like a shadow. Halfway down the kindergarten hall, Rex slowed, then froze, ears up, body rigid. He growled. Not a warning growl, not the low, anxious one Henry had heard before. This one had weight. Then came the bark. Sharp. Repeated. Bark, bark, bark. Like an alarm bell. Henry turned the corner and saw him, Mr. Blake, standing just outside classroom 1B, the door slightly ajar. His hand was in his bag, and he was crouching slightly like he'd been trying to work the lock. "Blake!" Henry shouted. "Step away from the door, now!" Blake jerked upright, startled. Rex surged forward, stopping just short of lunging, body between Blake and the classroom door, barking nonstop. Henry raised his hand. "Keep your hands where I can see them." Blake's face went pale, but he obeyed. "Drop the bag," Henry commanded. Blake let it slide from his hand. It hit the floor with a soft thud. Henry kicked it away with his foot. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." The bark in his voice wasn't up for debate. Blake hesitated for half a second. Rex snarled, a pure vibrating sound from deep in his chest, echoing through the silent hallway. That did it. Blake complied. Henry cuffed him swiftly, radioing dispatch as he did. "This is Officer Miles at Whitmore. We have a staff member attempting unauthorized access near kindergarten wing. Subject is detained. Initiating soft lockdown protocol." By the time the words left his mouth, the school's internal system was already activating. Automatic announcements began. "Attention staff, please initiate your designated lockdown protocol. This is not a drill." Doors shut, classrooms locked, teachers ushered students under desks with quiet urgency. Rex remained fixed in position, staring at Blake as if waiting for him to twitch. A second officer, Rodriguez from County, arrived 2 minutes later to assist. Together, they led Blake to the front office where he was secured in a holding room. His expression never shifted much. Not guilt, not panic, just a slow blank blink as if this was all a mild inconvenience. Henry picked up the dropped bag. Inside, a school-issued tablet, a small external hard drive, a pack of chewing gum, and a second phone. Unregistered, no lock screen, no ID. He slid the phone into an evidence bag, heart pounding. This wasn't nothing. And Rex had known, not from noise, not from movement, from something in the air. Henry crouched beside him in the hallway and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Good work," he whispered. Rex's ears flicked once, but he kept staring at the locked classroom door, like he knew what could have happened if they'd been 30 seconds later. They processed the phone first. Detective Stinson from the Cybercrimes Unit pulled Henry aside by noon that same day. His face was drawn, mouth tight. "The second phone you found," he said, "was scrubbed pretty well, but not perfectly." He handed over a manila folder. "Encrypted folder inside the gallery. Took our team 3 hours, but we cracked it." Henry flipped it open. Inside were thumbnails, pages of them, dozens of blurry, covertly taken photos. Some looked like parks, others were from schools, playgrounds, hallways. One was clearly the front entrance of Whitmore Elementary. Taken weeks ago, none of the children appeared hurt. But they were all young, and they clearly didn't know they were being photographed. "There's more," Stinson said grimly. "Metadata shows the oldest file is from 2 years ago. Different states. He's been moving. Fast." Henry sat heavily in the office chair. "And none of this was on his school-issued device?" "Nothing. That tablet's cleaner than a demo unit. But this phone, it's been his second life. Hidden under a fake cloud backup, anonymous email accounts, and then this." Stinson opened another file. He had a document saved under notes, just initials and school names, including Whitmore. A soft chill spread through Henry's chest. He had a list, a long one. They ran Blake's ID again, this time with scrutiny. His real name was Daniel Carlton Blake, 38, held teaching certifications in 3 states, had resigned from 2 schools after brief tenures, always citing family relocation or emergency caregiving. Nothing ever officially flagged. But one school in Oregon had a vague record. Parental complaint received, student discomfort around substitute, no follow-up, no charges, no report. A familiar pattern. "What about references?" Henry asked. "All forged," Stinson confirmed. 2 were completely fabricated. The third belonged to a retired teacher who had no idea her name was being used. By late afternoon, a deeper background check revealed that Blake had changed his appearance over the last 5 years. Hair length, facial hair, glasses. Even his posture and photos varied, always just enough to stay one step ahead of recognition. When they interviewed staff at previous schools, the comments were eerily similar. Quiet, polite, punctual. Great with paperwork, always offered to stay late. Seemed like a loner, but in a harmless way. Only later, when pressed, did someone mention a weird moment. A student who didn't want to return to class. A hallway encounter that made a teacher feel uneasy. But no one had ever had proof. Until Rex, at Whitmore, Principal Howard quietly called in parents of children from Blake's homeroom. He brought in the counselor and one plainclothes officer. They approached the matter delicately, nothing invasive, just a safety check. Most students reported nothing unusual. Except one, Lila, the same girl Rex had paid special attention to. Her parents' ticket sat with the counselor while she spoke. This time, she didn't just talk about the secret game. She opened up, slowly, carefully, about the notes Blake had slipped into her desk. "Didn't want me to tell," she said. "Said I was special. Said it was just between us." Her mother cried softly beside her. Her father clenched his jaw but didn't interrupt. The counselor asked gently, "Did he ever hurt you, Lila?" "No," she whispered. "But he made me pinky, promised not to tell." When the counselor showed her a photo of Blake taken from school records, Lila didn't hesitate. She nodded. "That's him." That was all they needed. Henry filed a full report that evening. It was clinical, measured, but he added one personal line at the end. Behavioral alert by K-9 unit occurred before any formal report or known misconduct. Dog's response should be considered the initiating factor that led to discovery. Blake was arrested the next morning. His expression, as they led him out of the station in cuffs, was still calm, like none of it touched him. But inside the evidence vault, the second phone's hard drive was still being combed. Investigators suspected more would come out. More schools, more names. Back at Whitmore, the atmosphere was somber, but there was also quiet relief. The threat hadn't escalated, not because a child spoke up, not because of surveillance, but because a dog barked. A dog who didn't care about credentials or smiles or clean resumes, just instinct, just the truth. The arrest never made the news. There were no front-page articles, no press conferences, just a carefully worded message from the school district that went out to parents in a sealed envelope. Due to a personnel matter involving a substitute instructor, the district has taken swift legal and procedural steps to ensure the safety of all students. At no point was any child physically harmed. We thank our staff and partners in law enforcement for their proactive response. No mention of Blake's real name, no mention of the photos, certainly no mention of Rex, but in the hallways of Whitmore Elementary, people knew. The teachers spoke a little softer in the break room. The counselor left her light on later than usual. Parents started walking their kids to the door instead of just dropping them at the curb. And Officer Henry Miles, he returned to his rounds. Same coffee, same clipboard, same polished boots. But now, every so often, a parent would stop him just for a second, a hand on the arm, a quiet thank you, nothing dramatic, just the way people say it when they know something dark almost happened, and didn't. Rex didn't seem to notice the change, or maybe he did, in his own way. He still trotted ahead of Henry through the gym lobby and cafeteria, still sat patiently when kids ran up to greet him, still accepted peanut butter biscuits from the cafeteria lady who claimed dogs understand kindness better than most adults. But he watched more now, stared a little longer at unfamiliar adults, held his posture a beat longer at the edge of every classroom. One Thursday afternoon, during an all-school assembly in the gym, Principal Howard made an unannounced stop between the choir performance and the fundraiser announcement. He cleared his throat. "Before we let you all go," he said, "I just want to recognize someone who doesn't get a lot of attention, but who made a difference recently. A quiet one, and who doesn't need a microphone or applause to do his job." He motioned toward the edge of the bleachers, Rex was lying down, head on his paws. Howard smiled. I think we all owe this officer a big round of thanks. The applause started from the second row, then the fourth, and then it rolled through the gym like a gentle wave. No yelling, no standing ovation, just warmth, respect, a moment where every adult in the room silently admitted what they hadn't seen and what the dog had. Afterward, as students filed out in groups, a girl from second grade paused beside Rex. It was Lila. She didn't say anything, just knelt beside him, pulled a small sticker from her backpack, a gold star with sparkles, and pressed it gently onto the badge clipped to his collar. Rex didn't flinch. He leaned into her hand just slightly and blinked once. Henry stood a few feet away, watching. He didn't take a photo, didn't speak. He just nodded once, barely noticeable, because sometimes you don't need medals. Sometimes all it takes is one bark and someone who listens. Have you ever witnessed an animal sensing something that humans missed completely? We've all heard stories about dogs detecting illness or danger before anyone else noticed, but Rex's story takes that instinct to a whole new level. And if your own child had been in that school, would you have trusted the dog's instincts over a clean background check and a teacher with perfect credentials? I always wonder how many Rex-like warnings we miss every day because we're too busy looking at paperwork instead of behavior. Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story made you stop and think, even for a moment, tap that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new story. We upload these every single day. Love stories like this one, but with cats instead of dogs? Check out our other channel. Links in the description. You won't believe what some of those cats have caught. 2 more stories are already waiting on your screen. Click one now, and I'll see you tomorrow, same time, with a brand new story.